Oh, well, that was shocking, wasn't it? That was very poor. That was terrible. That was really bad. I don't really know what more can be said about that performance from Dublin, but yeah, very rarely when I do these reactions or these match reactions, do I not know what to say. But after that performance, I don't know what to say. I mean, I'll definitely need to watch the game back, I think, on the TV because I was at the game and it was just, yeah, you didn't think it could get much worse than the performance against Kildare a couple of weeks ago. But it did. It definitely did. And to be honest with you, like I thought Roscommon played well, but they weren't. I thought they played much better against Mayo. Roscommon did. I thought Roscommon kept the ball for large parts. They took the sting out of Dublin, but there was times where I felt like Roscommon probably could have put the nail in Dublin's coffin in more ways than one, especially at the start of the second half. They struggled to get going, Roscommon. I think they'd 1 point in the second half after about maybe 15 to 20 minutes. But yeah, that was very, very bad indeed from a Dublin perspective. And unfortunately, yeah, I think as many people are saying in the comments down there, I think the good days are definitely over. The 6-in-a-row era is over. I mean, look, that era was going to have to come to an end at some stage. It wasn't going to last forever. The idea of Dublin continuously winning All Irelands every year, to be fair, I don't think it was good for anyone. Not good for Dublin fans, not good for neutrals, and certainly not good for opposition fans and rivals. And yeah, there was just a lot wrong today. I mean, again, a lack of urgency. We don't seem to want to shoot in many areas of the pitch. Our shooting's just terrible, absolutely. Even towards the end, Dean Rock missing those chances, like just the ball dropping short. It's almost like as I said in the Kildare game, it's almost like this Dublin team have completely forgotten how to play Gaelic football. It's like we don't know what to do. We seem lacking confidence, lacking ideas. There's no real energy about our play. Even the goal was very scrappy. I don't even think it wasn't even a well worked goal. A lot of our points were just tap overs from frees. There was nothing good today about Dublin's performance. At least against Kildare, in some way we showed some fight to actually dig deep and come back in that game. Paul Mannion, I thought, played well in that game. In this game, like we had a good period at the start of the second half, but it wasn't overly brilliant. But a poor performance from Dublin. This is the match reaction. We're going to break the game down, talk about the match, talk about where it went right, where it went wrong for Dublin, and where it went right and where it went wrong for Roscommon. So let's go. Welcome back to GA Fan TV. As we were saying there in the introduction, Dublin won 11, Roscommon 14 points, a draw in the end at Croke Park. Roscommon a kick of a ball away from winning their first championship game in Croke Park in 43 years, and Dublin a kick of a ball away from losing just their fourth championship game in Croke Park in 12 years. Like, this would have been a monumentous win for Roscommon had they have pulled it off. You think of some of the bad days they've had in Croke Park down the years. You think of some of the disappointments, the defeat to Clare last season, some of the very heavy defeats to the likes of Dublin, the day they nearly bet Mayo in an All-Ireland quarter-final and then went on to get absolutely hammered in the replay. This was the moment for Roscommon to put all that to bed. And for large parts of this game, you felt like it was going to happen. I mean, in the first half, Dublin just couldn't get going. The passing was terrible. Kickouts were okay, but generally we just seemed to, the movement was poor. Marking was very lethargic. I just can't really put a finger on it from a Dublin perspective. There was just no real fluency to Dublin's play. The passing was off. We weren't really taking shots on, and then when we were putting them well wide of the target. Like, Cormac Costello scored 7 points, but I'd say the majority of them were probably from place balls. Like, our attackers were just non-existent. Paul Mannion didn't score. Kieran Kilkenny, I thought, a very poor game. Noel Scully was poor enough. Brian Fenton was poor. Like, just everything about Dublin was very poor, to be honest. We kept losing the ball, just making silly mistakes. And Roscommon, to be fair, probably didn't always punish us. they didn't create enough chances, in my opinion, to actually go and probably win the game outright. Like, I think they deserve to win the game, in my opinion. But whether they, created enough in moments, like there were certainly moments in the game where they kept the ball for large parts without really sort of putting the sting in Dublin, when I think they were there for the taking. And Dublin were just sleepwalking for the majority of the 70 minutes. And, I think that the excuse throughout the year was that Dublin are, saving themselves for the championship, through the league. It was Dublin are saving themselves for the championship. Then at Leinster, it was Dublin are saving themselves for the latter parts of the championship. And now it's Dublin are saving themselves for an All-Ireland quarter-final. At this rate, if we keep playing the way we are, we'll be lucky to even get to a quarter-final. Kildare will fancy their chances against us in Nolan Park. I know Kildare have been poor enough this year, but they nearly beat us a couple of weeks ago. And with the fact that it's in a neutral stadium, I'm sure they'll get up for it. Their fans will travel down to it. They'll make a real game out of it. And they'll take a lot of confidence from what they've seen here as well. They'll see that this is the game plan. You need to play against Dublin. You get a lot of men behind the ball. You keep the ball for large parts, frustrate them, take the sting out of the game, and take your chances on the counter-attack and move the ball with pace on the counter-attack. And Roscommon set up in a mirror image to the way Kildare did a couple of weeks ago, and it worked. And to be honest with you, like, even Dublin Louth a couple of weeks ago in the Leinster final, for the opening 10-15 minutes, that game was a mirror image. Dublin just got a goal and Louth just completely collapsed, and I think Dublin just took advantage of that. And then because Dublin were so far ahead, there was no worry, there was no concern. We weren't playing with any pressure, and we started to play with more freedom. But this Dublin team seems to almost play within themselves. They seem to lack any confidence, which is strange considering what this team has achieved. If there was any team out there who should have been playing with no confidence, it was Roscommon. It should have been them, because they're the ones with the poor record at Croke Park and the championship. They're the ones that haven't beaten Dublin in I don't know how long, to be honest with you. And Dublin are the ones who, as they say, play in Croke Park week in, week out. So we should be the ones that are more comfortable playing there. We should be the ones that are more comfortable in possession and know how to navigate our way through these games. But that wasn't the case at all. That was not the case at all. It was the complete opposite. Roscommon looked comfortable on the ball. I think they enjoyed slowing the game down. I think they bought into probably some of the frustration from the Hill at times as to how some of the decisions were going. The referee was fairly brutal. Both of them were. The one in the first half, the one in the second half. I don't know which one was worse, to be honest with you. Look, I think Roscommon deserved to win the game. I think, I'll need to watch the game back to see every decision, but there definitely seemed to be a lot that favoured Roscommon in my opinion. Like, there was a moment at the end where a Dublin player was dragged back 6-7 meters in front of the goal. Nothing was given. And then towards the other end, that free towards the end, I think it was Downey Smith who maybe went down. Just didn't look like a foul. Looked very soft in my opinion. But I think at the end of the day, though, Dublin didn't deserve to win the game. And I think regardless of the refereeing decisions, I don't think you can really I don't think you can really blame the referee. Both of them, both referees. Obviously, one of them went off injured, I think. I was hearing plenty of people saying, "Oh, that's Dublin." They've obviously changed the referee at half time. They weren't happy with the first one. But there we go. But yeah, I think ultimately, though, like, Dublin didn't deserve to win the game. And that chance at the end, I'm not too sure who took the opportunity, to be honest with you. I think it might have been the goalkeeper maybe, or was it maybe Conor Cox who fancied it? They probably should have tried to work that ball inside a little bit more. But they had the chance, didn't they? They had the opportunity, Roscommon, to win the game. But look, Roscommon will take a lot of pride in their performance. They've had some very bad days in Croke Park down the years. The fact that they'll be coming out of Croke Park disappointed they didn't win the game against Dublin probably shows how far they've come and maybe how far Dublin have fallen. But I think you've got to give Roscommon a lot of praise. Like, they've come on leaps and bounds under Davy Burke. They're definitely no longer pushovers. They're a tough team to beat. They get in your faces, physically very strong. German Murtha, Kieran Murtha, excellent. They were brilliant. Lennon around midfield, number 9, thought he had a very good game. And the Smith was very impressive as well. Like, Roscommon have got good players. They beat Mayo for a reason. They finished third in Division 1 for a reason. And yeah, look, I have to hold my hands up. I think maybe in that preview show during the week, we were a little bit disrespectful towards Roscommon. To be honest with you, I think I was definitely a lot more reserved. I think I remember saying that if Roscommon play in a similar way to what Kildare played, they have a chance. They have an opportunity of doing something. And I didn't expect Dublin to be as poor as what they were. I thought after how well we played against Louth that those performances were beyond us, but they're definitely not. And I think if Dublin keep playing the way they're playing, we'll be look. It's near impossible not to get out of this group, because we need, even if we lose to Kildare, we should have enough to beat Sligo, which would see us in third at the very minimum. But whether we go beyond that, I really don't know. I think Dublin could get beat in a preliminary round game. We could even get beat in a quarter final. I think, I just, as much as I like Desi Farrell and what he's done for Dublin, it's not working. It's definitely not working. These performances have been a consistent trend throughout the entirety of the year. There's just not, it's just like Dublin are playing within themselves, lacking any belief, lacking any desire. And it's definitely not the Dublin we've expected. And to think, 6 in a row champions a couple of years ago, I don't think anyone was ever expecting that to keep going. But when you look at how quickly and how sharp the decline has been over the past 2 years, it's been very poor, very, very poor, in my opinion. Padge says here, we are finished. As they say, all empires must come to an end. Yeah, look, and in fairness, I think when we lost to Kerry last year, I think it was more than goes without saying that empire did come to an end. But when you think about it, like Mannion back in the side, Jack McCaffrey back, I know he didn't play today, but you have these lads, Cluxton's come back and he made a big save in the first half, in fairness, to keep out Roscommon goal. Interesting enough, since Cluxton's come back, Dublin haven't conceded a goal, which I think is interesting. Obviously Mick Fitzsimons gets a black card at one stage. We have to play with 14 men, and I think Cluxton done very well to sort of make a few big saves in big moments. But there was just a lot. I don't know what it is. It's just, it's very, very poor. Roscommon should have seen that out. Dubs were there for the taking. They were there for the taking. And it's a bit like the Kildare game. It's a bit like when we played Clare earlier in the year. You wonder how Dublin just managed to keep getting away with it. And I'm sure there's probably neutrals who look at these games and think, oh, well, it's okay. Dublin will click into gear eventually. I'm not too sure if we will. I don't know if we will, to be honest with you. Sports as Kerry will sleepwalk the next 2 games like they have all year. Roscommon, better team on the day. It's a long time since I've seen a team control the first half against Dublin as Roscommon did. First half with their errors gifted Dublin the draw, second half including the goal. And that was the thing even as well. Towards the end of the first half, obviously the Hill was getting very frustrated. Dublin fans were getting very frustrated with the fact that Roscommon were keeping the ball for so long. But at the same time, Dublin were showing no energy to press up, to try and win the ball back. It was like we were happy to just let them keep it, And even when Dublin went a point up, there was a moment we were a point up in injury time. And I thought, right, that's it. This is Dublin's time now to keep the ball themselves, slow the game down, and just sort of see it out. A bit like what Roscommon were doing towards the end of the first. And we just didn't. We just played a long ball forward, lost possession, and then Roscommon went down the other end, And that was the big problem. The 3/4 games in the knockout, 3 out of 4 games in the knockout stage is when they will show their true selves. I think they do the 2 in a row. No one looks like winning it this year. I think that might be in regards to Kerry. I don't understand what has happened with Dublin. They're so bipolar in their performances. Yeah, it's just bizarre, isn't it? Very bipolar, very I don't know, and you were sitting there watching it in that weather, burning to pieces. And you were thinking, Jesus, this is very bad. Dean Rock looks like an old man. Yeah, those chances towards the end that you missed, right in front of the goal, just dropping them short. You were thinking, what has happened? This is one of the best free takers in the country. I remember that point he scored against Mayo in 2017. I mean, I don't know what's happened. I know he has aged a bit in the last couple of years, but it just looks like he's lost it completely. And that's just very mad to see. Kildare will put it up to Dublin next week, especially with those injuries. I think they will. Kildare will fancy their chances. Do you know what I think? I think Kildare can't beat Dublin, but Dublin can beat themselves, in my opinion, because that's just how it is with Dublin. And I think, there won't be a team that wins that game. I think there'll be a team that will lose it. I think Kildare have more than capable of beating Dublin, but they're also capable of completely throwing it away. So there we go. Kildare won't put it up to Dublin, considering they drew with Sligo. Rossies were the first true test the Dubs have had so far this year. Lots to work on for both teams. And Shawnee says here, Davy Burke has done a fantastic job for Roscommon. Same for Mark McHugh's coach. Don't think Desi has what it takes to manage Dublin. No, and I think, look, Desi's done a very good job, in fairness, to obviously get Dublin, the All-Ireland a couple of years ago, and obviously win the, win an All-Ireland under 20 level, minor level as a player. Like, I think he's one of Dublin's greatest ever servants, greatest ever players. But I think there comes a time when you look at it and think it's definitely just not quite working out anymore, and I suppose, as Kurt says here, Desi did literally nothing for Dublin, the 6th All-Ireland in a row. It was literally the team that Jim Gavin built and Desi inherited. And yeah, look, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Because it is true. I think I more so respect Desi for what he done, underage level, and obviously as a player as well. But in terms of that All-Ireland win, yeah, it was a fairly handy All-Ireland as well, wasn't it? We had to beat I think Laois, Meath, Cavan, and then Mayo, a very young Mayo side as well, in an empty stadium, without their mad supporters there. So yeah, I think I think there was a lot. There was definitely a lot wrong with it, and maybe in hindsight, it just hasn't quite been good. Graham says here, as a dub, I feel we're very lucky to get the draw today. Farrell football is awful. Yeah, we were very lucky to get the draw. Very lucky to get away with it. Dubs fan, if Pat Gilroy is still part of the management team, what exactly is he doing? Desi is suffocating this team. Yeah, look, and I listened to Pat Gilroy on a podcast there not too long ago with Joe Brawley, and look, he's a very good businessman. I don't think he's probably got the time nor the energy to be a manager in Gaelic football anymore. But yeah, like, there's just a lot wrong, isn't there? And as I said before, like, everything you could talk about that went wrong for Dublin went wrong today. The only thing that didn't go wrong is that we didn't lose. Because if we had lost, then you would have said, right, I think we're not going to win the group anyway, so it'll have to be a preliminary round game, provided we beat Kildare and Sligo. But yeah, look, I think Kildare will take confidence, and I think, bizarrely enough, I think Sligo will probably take some confidence, like playing us in Breffni Park, tight pitch. I think Dublin will beat Sligo, don't get me wrong, but I think they'll look at it and think, they'll take confidence from it. They'll know that, look, they have a chance, and that's the thing. Teams play Dublin now knowing that they do have an opportunity now. They do have a chance. This is not the same Dublin as a couple of years ago. Player-wise, squad-wise, it's there, but I don't know what it is. We look overcoached, overworked, tired, energyless, lack of movement, no real brilliance about our play. And I think Roscommon are able to, opposition teams are able to sit in, dig deep, frustrate us, and hit us on the counter-attack. Sean says neither Kerry or Dublin will make the semi-finals. It's the most open All-Ireland since the early 90s. Yeah, probably going as far back since maybe 2010. You would say there as the most open All-Ireland. There's definitely a lot of teams that will fancy their chances. You'd probably look at Galway, Mayo. I'd still put Kerry in the same bracket as three of the favourites there, but you wouldn't be surprised to see any of those teams get beat on their day. You know what I mean? Like, none of them are a standout contender. Like, you couldn't put with 100% of your confidence, or, it used to be 80 to 90% of you was sure that Dublin would win the All-Ireland. 95% of you were sure that they'd win it, especially during that 6-in-a-row era. Whereas now it's like, you could split it all different ways. Like, there's not a huge amount of confidence in any team to win it, because you just don't really know what might actually happen, in fairness. But yeah, look, fair play to Roscommon. They'll take a huge amount of confidence from this. Look, they're contenders. They're definitely in with a chance. They're definitely in with a show. If they can beat Sligo and Kildare more than what Dublin can beat them, they'll win the group. I think Dublin are very inconsistent. Roscommon will come away with that with more confidence. They'll fancy their chances against Sligo and Kildare, in fairness, to get the victories. And then, yeah, they'll feel like they could be going in as group winners. They'll avoid possibly Mayo, maybe a few other sides. Not that they'd fear them anyway, because they already beat them. So Roscommon, look, an All-Ireland semi-final is not beyond the realms of possibility, possibly even a final. I think if I was a Roscommon fan, I'd be very confident and happy with that performance, because there was a lot right about it. Dublin were very poor, but Roscommon made us poor in many ways. And, they're definitely, as I said, I don't think Roscommon were at their best today, but I think the fact that they were able to stick with Dublin as well as they did, the fact that they were able to manage the game as well as they did, combined with some of the other performances we've seen this year, I think Roscommon will be very, very happy indeed, in fairness. But yeah, let me know your opinions or comments down below. I think man of the match for me, I'd probably go for German Murtha for Roscommon. There's no one on the Dublin pitch who deserves man of the match, in my opinion. Cluxton maybe at a stretch done all right. Fitzsimons, when he came back from his black card, done okay. But Keane Murphy was all right. But yeah, other than that, like, I think there was a lot of very bad performances there from Dublin. So I don't think there's anyone there who does deserve the man of the match. But yeah, let me know your opinions, who you think was man of the match. Fair play to Roscommon, fair play to Davy Burke. You know, they didn't come up to Dublin to make up the numbers today. They definitely nearly pulled off what would have been a seismic shock in more ways than one. But look, for Dublin, we regroup. We go on towards Kildare and Sligo, and then possibly beyond that. But whether Dublin get beyond the quarter-final this year, I don't really think so, to be honest with you. But there we go. Leave a like, subscribe if you're new. We'll speak to you all soon.